Hi everyone, I have been gone from BookTube for a long old time and I've been trying to find some time to come back. Obviously I come back when the world is on fire and I didn't want to just jump straight back into kind of normal content without addressing what's going on in the world and what my response to it has been. So obviously we have had a grand old time with a pandemic striking whilst the world is still crazily and institutionally racist and transphobic. Basically the world's gone to shit in a lot of ways. The main thing that has kind of been in my mind over the past month or so is obviously the Black Lives Matter movement. I live in central London. I see the beauty and the passion and the ferocity of the protests every single day, but I also see the injustices that cause it, and I know that as a white person, silence is violence, and by not being actively anti-racist every day, I'm not actively doing anything with my allyship. So I decided to do something about it, something small but that will affect me for a long time to come. So in the course of this video you are going to see me reading books by black authors about race, yes, about anti-racism, but also just stories, just fiction about black lives that have joy and pain and trauma and all the beautiful, fantastic things that people get to experience. And I didn't just want to come back with a book haul because to me that's quite performative. I'm not trying to say that anyone's videos have been performative. I just think that for me, just coming back and holding up a pile of books isn't me really doing anything about the imbalance in my reading. I need to actually read those books. And I know that I never read the books at all. So this video is a reading vlog where all of the books read were inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement. Some of them I already had on my shelves, some of them I got from the library, some of them I bought or bought the audiobook or ebook of, and it has been a really powerful experience for me. So let me now throw you over to the vlog where I go beyond a book haul. So last night I started reading My Sister the Serial Killer by Ian Ken Braithwaite. Well, actually I was listening to it on audiobook and I wasn't expecting to enjoy it solely because I've seen it in best thriller of the year list last year, and I am soft. I have never read a thriller in my life because I'm terrified of everything, and the last thing I need is to realise the awful things people do to other people. But I absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed it. It is, as everybody has kind of been told repetitively, about a woman whose little sister kills her boyfriends. Our main character, Corridor, we open with her coming to the rescue and cleaning up a murder site and hiding a body in Lagos. And I've never read anything set in Lagos, so this was really interesting for me to get to know somewhere new through these characters. But it also had such humour to it, such genuine warmth, and you could see the absolute adoration between these two sisters and being caught between doing the morally right thing and the right thing for your family, and how even if you try to do the right thing, it can backfire on you, and you're better off keeping stum. So this is 100% a 5-star read for me. I couldn't get the exact Marlon James audiobook I wanted from the library, and seeing as I am not allowed to buy any more books, it is the library for this month. I wanted his newest release, Red Leopard, Leopard Black. I'm actually having a blue lily, lily blue situation. Red and black and leopards are in there. But what was available was A Brief History of 7 Killings, and I've never really gravitated towards this because it's a 700-page chunk about a murder of a musician, or the attempted murder of a musician that I'm not really that into their music. But I picked it up anyway, and I'm kind of in the middle of the road with it at the minute. I'm about 10% of the way through. What I love is the use of patois. I absolutely love reading patois. I think it's incredible. We all know that my linguistics history is accents and dialects and the cultural connotations of accents and dialects. So patois is really interesting for me, and a lot of my students speak patois at home. So the patois isn't the issue for me. The issue is that it's gruesome. It's like really vulgar, which like we all know I enjoy a cheeky little swear here and there because I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Just relentlessly cruel the way people are treated in the city of Kingston, and the way it references the famous musician is the musician or the singer. We're never given his name directly, which is quite nice actually. It helps like build up this myth of this man. We've had a ghost narrate us a bit of the story. We've had children caught up in gang violence. We've had arms dealers. We've had CIA agents. So it's building up this really comprehensive snapshot of a moment or a couple of months in Jamaica's history, and I really appreciate that. It's like we're getting steeped in something, and I think the length of the book and the varying personas, and yes, the patois really helps us do that. I think this might be one that takes me quite a while to finish. I don't think I'll be finished it by the time I finish this video, but that's fine, because what we're doing here is not just ticking off a list of black books to say that we have a diverse bookshelf or that we're allies now, or anything as performative as that. I am actively trying to move beyond a book haul to change my reading habits, and those habits are ongoing. They aren't going to be wrapped up part and parcel of one video, so I'm totally fine with the fact that this might take me the rest of the year just to crack through a little bit at a time and really give the attention it deserves. But, you know, you'll hear about my thoughts when I finish it and not before. I have not made any progress on Underground Railroad in ages because I've just not been reading anything with my eyes. It's all been audiobooks because I can whack the audiobooks on while I am doing admin and stuff, and I'm really ashamed of what I did. It was really sad. Obviously, it's a story about slavery and it was really heavy, and I used basically my mental health as an excuse not to read this book because like I wasn't really reading much, it was really heavy, and like that is the worst thing an ally can possibly do, because what kind of ally am I if I pick and choose when I consume content that is people's history, it's people's everyday lives. I'd kind of forgotten I owned this book until I took a really hard look at my bookshelves. I realised that yes, I've read a lot of books by black authors, but then I've not gone out to replace them with more books by black authors. So now that my remaining TBR looks really white, to the point where I think this might be the last physical TBR book I have by a black author. And it's always been a book that I didn't mean to DNF forever. But again, I've not made it my priority and I need to own up to that, and I need to realise that I have been slacking as an ally, and that's really uncomfortable, but I think we need to sit with our discomfort and learn from it and then action that discomfort, because otherwise it's just performative. Hiya, I am doing a 12-hour readathon today. Me and my good friend Rachel Louise Atkin, recently tried to do a 24-hour readathon, which we succeeded in doing, and I did vlog. I broke my phone and the footage had not yet uploaded to Google Photo, so you will never see how that readathon went, but it was great. I read 47 books in a day, didn't go to sleep. I'm an icon, no one can compare. It was a bit much. We got sleepy, we got a bit grumpy, so we decided to do a 12-hour version from lunchtime to midnight. It's actually already gone past lunchtime, it's 12:02.
That's my unboxing. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Do you want me to do another one? Are we doing a part 2 to this?
Okay, I have calmed down a little bit now. Basically, in the story, we follow a girl called Cora who escapes from a plantation, and she's been working as domestic help for another black family, a black middle class family in another state, under a false name, and she gets offered a promotion or a new job, and that job is to be dressed up in tribal African clothes of a tribe she doesn't belong to, of a country she's never visited, and be a window display in a museum. And then every hour she swaps to another display, another costume, where she is on a slave ship and is then on a plantation. She says she can't attest to the accuracy of the first two displays, because that's not her experience, but she knows the plantation is wrong. The only thing they got right is the clothes and the sensation of wearing those clothes, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. Colson Whitehead has eviscerated me. I genuinely just had so much hope that this character, who escaped slavery, was about to get some kind of happiness, and then just to be totally fucked over by a white bastard, to be so used and not seen as a human when we thought she was finally getting an opportunity. And I think I might need a little break. And horror upon horror, we are now going into enforced sterilisation, which was practised on the inmates of colour in an asylum. It's history and it happened, and it's so important that we know about it, because in the back of your mind you kind of know that these things happened, but you don't get to see someone's experience through them. I think that's what is so powerful about reading and taking this opportunity to educate yourself. Because we are so lucky in the levels of privilege we have as white people, that we don't need to think about how this happened to people like us. Basically, I wasn't getting any reading done in the living room because I'm very easily distracted. So I've left Jessie to watch a film, and I have moved back into bed, where I'm going to try and get a bit more of the Underground Railroad read, hopefully get up to at least page 200, and then maybe switch it up for another book. So I made a lot of progress on the Underground Railroad. I'm now on page 257, and there's only that much left, which is about 110 pages. So I baked, I had tea, I watched a film, but maybe, just maybe, I could finish the Underground Railroad too. It wasn't the point of today, but it could happen. It's midnight and I am 40 pages off finishing the Underground Railroad, and we're in a happy place. If I've learnt anything about this story, it's that a happy situation does not last. So do I go to bed with some hope in my life, or do I stay up and hurt myself by finishing this book? I think I'm going to carry on. I'm really tired, so I will update you in the morning. Last night I fell asleep 10 pages before finishing the Underground Railroad. So I woke up this morning and I finished it, and it was probably one of the most heartbreaking, brutal, honest, important books I've ever read. Unbelievably, when I said it was going to go bad, it went horrendously. But we finished up with hope, which is the message I'm going to take from it. Is there somewhere I can put you down while we chat? I've not got the upper body strength for this. I'm not as young as I used to be. Okay, so last night I couldn't sleep, so I re-downloaded all of my apps that were on my old phone that had the good camera, and one of them was my library audiobook app. So it's actually remembered what I had downloaded and where I was on them. So today I need to build a bookshelf, top bookish content, and while I do that, I'm going to pick up where I left off on The Come Up by Angie Thomas, which I was really enjoying, and hopefully I can get a good chunk listened, because I don't think this is going to be a quick process. And no, I'm not going to do a time lapse of me building this, because it won't be pretty. So we realised that these bookshelves were kind of coming off the wall with the amount of weight that was on them. And that top shelf was rammed. There was about double that amount of books on there. So I've kind of moved a lot of those down to here for now, and then those collections were taken out and put there. It took from chapter 11 to chapter 24, but I've got a bookshelf full of books. Let's not think about the shelves that are on the wall. This is a job well done. So I just finished the audiobook of On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, and I loved it. I loved that it was a young girl who was kind of being taken advantage of, or like her agency being removed because of like her dad's legacy and the situation she was in, overcoming that and like empowering herself to run her own career and use her talent as she saw fit. At times it didn't look like she was going to be able to do that. So yeah, I was really impressed. Like, I read The Hate You Give last year, and was really moved by it. And this one wasn't as upsetting as that, but it was equally as powerful. And I really enjoyed how there was kind of moments where it referenced The Hate You Give. It's set in the same kind of neighbourhood. The murder that sparks The Hate You Give is kind of brought up in this, and Brie wrote a song in response to it. It kind of all meshes together. I am now home alone for over a week, so I'm going to be reading books and listening to audiobooks pretty much non-stop. So I'm going to finish Salvage the Bones today, because I'm like one chapter off finishing and I am frightened. And hopefully I can finish Americanah in the next couple of days. Like, I did not realise how chunky of a book that was. Like, when you listen to an audiobook, you're like, oh, I've been listening to this for hours. And then you look and it's actually 50 chapters and you're on chapter 12. I'm not sure how it's going to sustain the plot over that length of time, but I'm willing to find out. Morning. Last night I actually managed to finish Salvage the Bones, which was a kind of on-the-ground perspective of what happened during Hurricane Katrina. And I remember being quite young and not fully understanding the damage a hurricane could do as we were starting to hear about Katrina making landfall. And then the news reports of the absolute desolation. And I was so far away and so safe and had so much cognitive dissonance that I just couldn't quite believe it was real. I think some part of me thought it was almost like a film on like a shit disaster channel that had been left on. And I don't think I understood how late the warnings had come and how the attitudes on the ground had made people kind of just want to stay in their homes, especially the people who are most disenfranchised by society and therefore the hardest hit. So we follow this black family and their life is the pit. It's the place they've built these two homes that they live in. It's surrounded by the woods, it's near a creek, it's very much a part of the bayou, and that whole kind of culture of Louisiana is something I don't know a lot about. So right now I am going to finish Americanah, because somehow I've managed to get up to chapter 30 from a couple of hours of listening last night, and I am going to play Animal Crossing because it's the bug off, and hopefully we'll find out what happens with FM and her lad. So here we go. Hello, welcome to my island. We're not doing an island tour today because it's time for the bug off. So I'm going to get my net and I'm going to go catch some bugs. So, it's a couple of hours later. I finished listening to Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Fantastic. I thought that because it's essentially a story about romance and just a woman making choices in a slice of life story, it wouldn't be something I was interested in. I was wrong. So it follows Ifem, who is a Nigerian girl who gets a scholarship to go to America, and she leaves behind her boyfriend and her family with kind of the acknowledgement that they'll all follow her over eventually once they're allowed to. But then her boyfriend can't get a visa to get into the country, and her family all end up staying in Lagos in Nigeria. And it's all about kind of her immigrant experience in America and her becoming Americanized so that she can't relate to her family or her homeland anymore, but also that she doesn't fully fit in America either. She kind of enters this limbo, and when she does decide to go home, she finds out her boyfriend had tried to do something similar in England and also gone home, but now he is loaded. And it's kind of about them reconciling themselves in Lagos, their relationship with each other, and how race is viewed differently in Africa and in America. I have just realised it is cozy reading night tonight, which had completely escaped my awareness. So I am picking up The Sellout by Paul Beatty, which did it win or was it shortlisted? Oh, it won the Man Booker Prize in 2016. I also have the audiobook from the library, so I might skip between them, so I'm really utilising all. Oh, that utilising. That was a bit Tory, wasn't it? Utilising. So I'm utilising Cozy Reading Night as effectively as I can. It is about, from what I gather, a boy who was kind of abused by his dad in the name of psychological and social anthropological research. And after his dad dies, there isn't an inheritance like he was promised. So he has to do something drastic to kind of earn some money and some attention. So he tries to resegregate his hometown. And that sounds fascinating. And I can't quite imagine how this premise can get pulled off. So I'm excited to find out. So I'd actually started The Sellout a little bit before Cozy Reading Night began, and got really into it to the point where I've read a massive chunk already. I got to the beginning of part 2, which is page 93, so not bad going. I love this so far. It is kind of focusing on... There are kind of 2 timelines going. The first one is set in present day, when our main character is awaiting the Supreme Court being tried for owning a slave in the modern day, which obviously is like a media circus. And then it skips backwards in time to him being a child and kind of going through like the justifications for the way his dad basically abused him in the name of psychology, and his dad's death, and then going on to what happens after that. And we've just been introduced to the character who I assume is the slave in question. It's not what I was expecting, and I'm really enjoying it. This might be a today finished book. Maybe not before 10 o'clock when Cozy Reading Night ends, but today. Spoiler alert, or the opposite of spoiler alert, I did actually finish that on the night of Cozy Reading Night, and thus wraps up the vlog. So to do a quick wrap up of what I read this past couple of weeks, I started off by listening to the second half of the audiobook for On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, which was about a young girl who wants to become a rapper, and it's set in the same neighbourhood, or a very similar neighbourhood to her previous book, The Hate You Give, which is also fantastic, and it kind of showed that the consequences of everything that happened in that first book couldn't be wrapped up neatly because they are systemic, and they kind of bled into people's lives who they were totally unrelated to, and the impact that can have not just on a person but on a community. Then I listened to the audiobook for My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyakhan Braithwaite, which was phenomenal. I would never ever ever have picked up a thriller. I'm not sure how thrilling it actually was. It wasn't scary, but it was tense. I would never have picked up a book like that if not for this challenge, and I really, really, really loved it. Not shown in the video, but I did also want to support our trans siblings in this trying time, because obviously some very high profile people have been outing themselves as transphobes this past month. So I read Trans Like Me by C.N. Lester. It's not a black book, but a book from someone who would have been having a pretty shitty time this month. Then I finally, years later, managed to finish The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, and it was so compelling, so beautifully written, so many just beautifully lyrical, painful parts of this book. Every time you kind of got a sniff of freedom, it was really brutally taken away in a way that was really realistic, but just absolutely shattering. It follows a young slave as she basically tries to escape and make a life for herself, and all the time she gets caught and escapes. And I love that despite all the times my hopes were absolutely dashed, it did have a really hopeful ending. Then I finished Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward. The reason I picked this book is because it was the only Jesmyn Ward my library had available. I was hoping to have Sing Unburied Sing or The Men We Salvaged. I'd not actually heard of Salvage the Bones at all. I'd not heard anyone talk about it. And it is the story of a black family who are very much a struggling working class family in the run up to, during and after Hurricane Katrina, which, as I said in the video, was a totally different perspective on an event that I was too young to understand, but that had happened in my lifetime. Then I finished Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I love Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's writing style. I have watched her TED Talk and read all of her little feminist pamphlets and manifestos, but I've not read any fiction by her until now, and Americanah seemed to be the one everyone was pointing me towards. I was a little bit hesitant because, again, it's not the kind of book I would normally read if I wasn't doing a challenge like this, because I thought it was like just a romance. Obviously there is so much more going on, but it is very romance heavy. It's about immigration and assimilation and maintaining your identity throughout those things. It's about hostile environments in America, and it was set kind of during Blunkett's horrendous press, what would you even call it, witch hunt of immigrants in the UK. So it kind of had those touchstones for me to relate to, as well as opening up my experience to so much more. I also read The Sellout by Paul Beatty, which actually might be one of my favourite books of the year. It talks about horrendous things with such humour and sensitivity that it might be one of my favourite books ever. I can't believe that I bought this on a whim like 6 months ago. I put it on my shelf and forgot about it. It was about a man who basically stumbles into resegregating his town in America, and you kind of start off with him sitting in the waiting room for, is it the grand jury, the Supreme Court, and it flashes all the way back to the beginning of the story and leads you up to how he ended up there and how he ended up being pulled into this huge human rights case. But it's so much more than that, and that's the only way I'd heard it described, and it's so much better than that. I did also start and then DNF Marlon James' A Brief History of Seven Killings. It was very gruesome. It was about music and the music scene, which I found out I really don't like in books. There was a lot of rape and a lot of really brutal murders, and I understand that that's representative of Kingston in that moment, and it was painting such a vivid, realistic image of Kingston at that time in those communities. But I feel like I'm not totally DNFing it. I do want to continue it because my education goes beyond this video, but right now it wasn't working for me right now, and I kind of talked about that more in the video. But as I said, this isn't the end. This is my first sprint towards education, towards being loudly and proudly anti-racist and challenging racist ideals wherever I see them, whoever shares them. So with that in mind, I'm going to make a wishlist video, which has about 30 to 50 books on it that I have researched that I would really like to read. Because one thing I've found with this experience is that like I said, I would never have picked up some of these books because they're not in genres I read in, but publishing has a systemic issue with publishing authors of colour, black authors, indigenous authors, queer authors within the genres I most love, which are sci-fi and fantasy. Obviously, translation is something that I love as well. It's a lot easier to find authors of colour in translation than it is in others, but I have managed to find some. It hasn't always been easy, so I will share that video and that list because I think some people might find some more books they hadn't heard of to their tastes in those, and hopefully people can see what I've written and then give me some more recommendations. So, thank you for watching. I hope you have read some fantastic anti-racism books recently. I'm going to find some resources linked down below that specifically address systemic racism in the UK, what you can do about it, and hopefully I will see you again very soon. Bye.